The audacity that you would ask for a template. That's what I feel like saying when I get a message or an email. What do you guys think of that? Started working on a project here now that I think I'll take you guys along for, but I just want to mention this idea to you and get your opinion. You know, I've done leather work and kydex work and a lot of different projects over the years that I've shared online on YouTube here and Facebook, Instagram, all my pages that you should be following, by the way. I would really appreciate it. But I've done so many projects and shared so many projects, and I've developed a lot of different patterns and ideas and templates, like you see here, for really unique and somewhat difficult projects. Now occasionally I will get an email or a message asking for my template. Please, could you just send me a copy of that template that took you, a couple hours, or try after try after try of figuring out and wasted leather. Could you just send that PDF along to me, please? It'd be great. I don't say what I said in the beginning. I don't get defensive or say anything nasty. Usually I don't even respond to those emails, just for fear that I don't say anything, because it stings a little bit. It stings when people don't appreciate the work. It takes time to develop good templates, and you guys know I've mentioned so many times when I've been doing projects and drawing up templates, I always remind you guys, anything you do, make a template and save it. I have... Let's see, this is a start right here. Look at this. Stacks and stacks of templates, everything. Because why design and engineer something twice? Unless, of course, you specifically can make it better, why do it twice? So I save all of my templates, and it does grind my gears a little bit. It pricks me a little bit when someone asks for a template. What do you guys think? Is that unreasonable of me? Do you think I should send the template along, the PDF, since I've already got it? What do you think? Anyways, what I'm working on here today is an axe sent in by a customer. I believe a pretty new, gorgeous Hults axe. Really beautiful. And they want, this is the little sheath that comes with it. Not much of a sheath. They want a full-on enclosed belt sheath. This is one of those projects that really needs a template, and the template is a little bit intricate. It's a little bit difficult. So unlike a traditional artist who just has something come into mind and they just kind of create, and what you get is what you get, a craftsman that builds for other people has to engineer and design ideas that meet customer specs, and this is one of those cases. The customer wants, here is sort of the order, a belt sheath, that the axe, this beautiful little axe, by the way, really, really nice. The axe can slip into the sheath, be covered in and not come out, and be sort of used as a holster while working. The sheath can also be not worn on a belt, be attached to a pack where the axe is kept safe hanging off a pack. So that is what we're working on here now. And let me see if I can get it right here to show you guys this template. I'm going to try not to crease it up too much, but it will go like this. We'll have back flap stitch across the back, and over the top, you see that? This is how this will work, not with that sheath, of course, already on there. These will go probably snaps across the back. Your axe head is fully enclosed, impossible to lose. And some of you guys, especially if you've done work like this before, you'll recognize what it takes to create a template like this. It takes a lot of paper, a lot of different tries, a lot of trimming, and starting over from scratch to get it just right. And now this is my first main template. So I will go ahead now, drop this on some leather. We will build this sheath, see it in real life for the first time, and see if it works. And occasionally, what you have on paper doesn't translate well to leather. So that is something that you run into. It's happened many times where you end up with scrap, garbage leather. Then we'll have to look at our leather sheath. Let's say we build that leather sheath that doesn't fit on here. We'll have to look and say, okay, well, our problem is that we need a 1/4 inch more right here. So how does that translate to the paper? We'll have to get out some more paper, overlay it, add in what we need. It takes time. It takes time. Again, what do you think I should do? Send the template or not? What a beautiful feeling. Leather is just such a beautiful, beautiful material to work with. You can do so much with leather. People don't even realize so much. When it comes to tools, protecting your tools, it's not just knives and axes. You can build all little sheaths for your chisels and sheaths for your draw knife. Something like a beautiful draw knife that you take in the woods. If you wanted to take it in the woods, for example, and carve out a stick or take it into the camp, how do you take those tools into the woods? It's all right, they're hung on the wall in your workshop. Great, but let's say you want to take your beautiful draw knife or your peeling knife, take it into the woods to do a little bit of that work. How are you going to do that? Let's take these two gorgeous vintage draw knives I have right here. These are antiques in every sense of the word, very old. I believe this one here was built in 1890, the closest I could track it back in the day. This was maybe my first tool sheath ever. This was one of my first, I mentioned recently I was telling a story about collecting old hand tools. This was one of my first hand tools that I collected, and it was right when I was getting big, really obsessed, which I tend to do, but really obsessed about my antique tool collection. And my dad knew that I was eyeing this draw knife. And at the time, I was in the university. I believe it was $85 at a vintage tool store. Or it wasn't even a tool store. It was like a pawn shop, old junk type thing. And I was just eyeing. I would go back almost weekly and check out this draw knife. And my dad bought it for me. Surprise! He knew I was wanting it. He sort of went in and bought it for me. But this is a treasure. But this was one of my first tool sheaths I built, and this was some scrap leather. Like really scrap leather that another maker had already discarded, and I made this little fold over 2-rivet sheath. Look at that. Oh, this thing deserves to be used. But I restored it, and now I have this sheath, and this can be thrown in a backpack now, like I said, or I just throw it in my tool tote with all my planes and all that stuff. And how would you manage something like that without a sheath like this? It'd be very, very difficult to keep that fine, perfect edge razor sharp like that. It would be getting all dinged up. A few years after that one, I managed or stumbled upon this antique Sorby draw knife. And this is not a Robert Sorby. I believe it's an L&B. I don't recall now. It's been a while since I've dug into these. You guys remember I did a series on building these beautiful birch handles for this draw knife. I put those brass ferrules on there, which have since, the birch has shrunk a little bit. They were just glued on there, so I'll just re-glue them. They were epoxied on there, just a small bit of epoxy, but the wood has dried, which will probably make this joint tighter, but it has shrunk inside the brass ferrule, so I'll re-glue that. But this is a sheath I made for that project. See, a little bit simpler. I didn't use a ton of leather on this one, but it's a little bit different design. Check that out. Isn't that gorgeous? Treasures, absolute treasures. But this is the little sheath I made. A little welt design in this one. Put a little welt in there. It's a fold over, so it's 2-piece, not including the welt. Isn't that nice? Clean. widely spaced stitch there. Looks real nice and protects that edge. Again, that's the important part. And one of the things that leather offers you is an ability to create these protective edges and stuff. A material that's just so rich and beautiful and soft and works well with edge coverings. That doesn't cost a lot of money and that you can build really beautiful things out of. It's really difficult to cut small radii with a utility knife like I was using there. So I usually try to use punches and things if I can. Like I'll use this little small round punch to punch that radii, and you will get a nice smooth, and then you can run your utility knife into that. It just works well, gives you cleaner results. And since we're in the game of constantly getting better, there we go. You see that? Now we have a real nice clean corner there. That doesn't even need any, that one's getting full. And a clean corner that doesn't even need any grinding or sanding or anything like that. Beautiful. Also, I wanted to mention this design of having this leg post up through the workbench here. If you're wondering what this is, by the way, it's a leather die. That'll probably take a week to come off. But to have the end of my posts up through the bench like this, you have end grain to cut on. If you can see, this is chewed up here. This is literally years of punching and cutting and things like that right into this wood, and you have a solid post that's direct to the concrete below. So it's very rigid, unlike the rest of the bench, not quite as rigid. And everywhere else on the bench you have a cross grain. So if you're always doing that on cross grain, you'd be cutting out that section of the grain, and your bench would be just getting hacked away at. This here, it's like an end grain cutting board. Your fibers just separate and then they mash back together, so you don't lose any material over time. So that is really, really nice. Highly recommend this design. Now I like to bevel my sheaths or notch them on the back side right where they'll fold. Especially, I don't do it with a thinner leather, but with a leather like this that's probably 7 ounces or so, if you've got to do kind of a tight fold, it helps to remove a little material, just cut a relief, I would call it, a bit of a relief on the back side. Like right here, we have to come in to a tight fold for a welt. So just with that little bit of material I removed there, it wants to cleanly fold, and it'll fold now and create a perfect hug for the welt. Whereas if you don't do that, you have this bulky joint here, and you really have to stress your leather on the outside here. We don't want to do that. So we'll just remove a little bit of material. Same thing along, just a couple little spots right here. Anywhere where there's tight folds need to happen. We'll just debulk the back side of the leather a little bit. Clean up some of your joints now. Beautiful. the owner of this axe, the client in this case, didn't ask for any sharpening or cleanup or handle work or anything like that. But when you get back your beautiful axe with a sheath that looks like that, you want your axe to be proper. And I don't want to send an axe back to an owner without being fully treated. So we've got a fresh edge on there. Razor sharp, shaving sharp. Did a little bit of scraping. I removed that factory safety logo that was there on the handle because that's showing out now on the display side when the axe is riding in that sheath on your hip. It just doesn't look good. So got rid of that little logo. Little bit of cleanup and scraping, and now a fresh coat of boiled linseed oil, which is just beautiful. If the owner watches this video, I'd recommend you start coating it now every couple days for the next week or so, and then give her a coat maybe once a month for like the rest of this year. By that point, you will have a finish worn into your handle that is just, it's hard to explain unless you felt it. I wish you could, some of you guys could come grab the handle of my Wetterlings in there, or some of my axes. By the way, if you're using boiled linseed oil, this rag here now that has oil on it, burn this rag or soak it in water or something, or just get rid of it properly because it will combust. Boiled linseed oil, regular linseed oil is natural. It's a natural product and it doesn't have any properties in it that allow it to combust. Boiled linseed oil has chemicals added, fast drying agents, and the product actually generates a lot of heat when it's drying because it's trying to drive heat in that product to help with the curing process. Kind of like a two-part epoxy, it generates a lot of heat too. But with something fibrous like a paper towel or a rag or something, guys just toss these in their trash bin now. Next time they come out to the workshop, there isn't a workshop. There's so many horror stories like that. This stuff is not to be played with. Clean up properly after you use it. Now you guys that have been watching the channel for a while will know what the next step is, the final step. Before I even mention it, there's the Newfoundlander coming through before I mentions it. Phoebing's mink oil. It's the last stage coating. It's the last top coating I give all my products. Just gives a luster to the leather that's just incredible. Just gorgeous. Always apply it with my hands because the heat from your hands just helps drive it into the leather, it seems. I have tried applying it with different products, like a little brush or take a bit on a rag, but it doesn't seem to have the same effect. I really hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. I hope you learned something. If not, I at least hope you were entertained. Thanks for watching. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know if there's something about this project you want to know. Check out my website, colinnoseworthy.com. Let me know if there's something you want added. If you want to inquire about a custom build of your own, email me. It'll be down in the description there now. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video.